here we are at the He's Alive Farm Kitchen, and today I'm going to show you how to make sauerkraut in a very simple and healthful way. We love to eat fresh cabbage. We eat as much as we can, as we can keep the cabbage fresh and it's available. But when the winter months come, we eat up the fresh cabbage. We dry cabbage even, and we eat dried cabbage in the form of cabbage chips, which is delicious, that we're going to show you in another video how to make. But another way to preserve cabbage is by culturing it. And so a lot of people have seen cabbage or sauerkraut made in the past, and it's a very messy and kind of yucky process, usually in big crocks, or my dad used to make it in big buckets in the garage. But we learned of a way that is much easier, neater, and it's something that anybody can do with just a few simple things, like a food processor and canning jars and a big knife to attack your cabbage. So what I've done today already is I have shredded my cabbage. Our favorite type of cabbage to use is a famosa cabbage. Makes the best sauerkraut. It has tender leaves and they're kind of bubbly. These are the outer leaves, and it just makes it tender and great flavor. This cabbage is good for anything, for fresh eating and for drying. But so we use this for sauerkraut. Any cabbage can be used though, even red cabbage. But what I've done is I have washed my cabbage, chopped it into pieces that are small enough to fit in my food processor. I have shredded it on actually the slicing blade, not the shredding blade. But if all you have is a shredding blade, you can use that too. Just use the largest hole on your shredding blade. So, but the slicing blade works good for cabbage, and this is the texture that you want it to be. And then what we're going to do is, well, first I'll empty my last load into the bowl. I like to shred it like this, where I'm not filling the food processor and then trying to fill a jar. I just get a big bowl and keep shredding until the whole cabbage, or however many cabbages I'm doing, are all shredded, so then I can move on to the next part of the project. Be very careful because, as you probably know, the blades of the food processor are very, very sharp. Okay, so I might pull some large pieces out as I see them. Doesn't matter that much, but you know, sometimes I don't cut the stem off thoroughly. So I'll take those out. And then I like to use these big jars. These are 2-quart canning jars, but you can use 1 quart. And you can even use, we've used all kinds of things. We've used big peanut butter jars, the leftover from Adam's peanut butter. Any big jar with a wide mouth works for this. You really want to be able to kind of fit your hand in there. Well, I'd like to, but you can also use a spoon to put it in there. Let me see if I use my hand. But what you're going to do is you're going to just make sure your jar is clean, and then you're going to fill it with the shredded cabbage. And it's a little bit messy, so that's one of the reasons I like to use the bowl, because I just keep it right over the bowl. And pack it in there. When I'm making sauerkraut, I pretty much abandon the idea of keeping pieces of cabbage off the kitchen floor. Other times when I'm making dinner, it kind of bothers me to have food falling on the floor, and I try to pick it up as I go, but not with sauerkraut, because that's all I'll do all afternoon. And so I just do one grand final cleaning when I'm all done. So I'm going to pack this in here pretty tight. I mean, not so tight that you break your jar, but just pack it down there. You don't want any air pockets. And you only want to fill it up to the shoulders of the jar. You know, you can see the shoulders of the jar. That's as far as you want to go with it. And now we add, let me get this out of the way, salt. For this size jar, it's 4 teaspoons of salt. I just make it simple. I like things simple, and I use a heaping tablespoon. Not too heaping, but just, you know, estimating about one teaspoon more than the tablespoon holds level. So I would fill all my jars with the cabbage and then do the salt on the top of all of them. I wouldn't do it one at a time like this, but for time's sake, we're just doing one. So now I will take either boiling water that I've heated up in a pot, or a tea kettle, or I will use very hot tap water. We know in our house we keep our water heater at a very high temperature, so we have very hot tap water. If you're just if you're unsure about the quality of your water, or if there's chlorine in your water, do not use just tap water, and because you don't want to hinder the bacteria from growing, and chlorine kills bacteria. But we have a well here in Alaska where He's Alive Farm is located, and we have very good clean well water that is very hot. So I'm going to fill my jar up to the bottom ring line with very hot water. Like I said, you could use water that you heated up on the stove, and we're gonna fill it up to here so that we have a 1-inch gap of air between the water and cabbage level and the lid that we put on. Okay, so now we have that, and what I do is I just wipe the lid, I put a clean canning lid on it, just snug it down. I'm not doing it as tight as I can, but it's not loose either. It's on there. And I will put this in a moderately cool place. Around somewhere between 60 to 70 degrees seems to be the best temperature for us as far as the culturing process. And I think if it was a little cooler, it might just take a little longer. And if it's a little warmer, maybe a little faster. So we leave this in a place that is out of the way. We like our garage because as it processes, the gases definitely escape and make the garage smell like we forgot to take the trash out. But it is just never fear. Your cabbage eventually will be cultured and processed, and it won't smell like that anymore, and it certainly won't taste like garbage. And so when you put it in your spot in the garage or wherever, or even if you keep it in your house, make sure you put it on newspaper, because as it processes, sometimes the liquid will seep or come out of it, and you don't want to get the smelly cabbage juice all over whatever it's sitting on. So put it on newspaper and keep it out of the light, and after about 2 weeks it's getting ready to be eaten. And you can just test one by opening it and just trying a little, and if it doesn't taste like sauerkraut yet, then let it go a little longer. And if it does taste like sauerkraut and you're happy with it, then you would, at that point is a good time to put it in the refrigerator or in a very cool room, likely if you have a storage room below 50 degrees, but not freezing. That would be okay too. But we would put it in the refrigerator at about that time. I found that here, maybe it's our temperature. I like to let it go about 3 weeks before I refrigerate it, and it's just a very simple, clean way to make sauerkraut. It's safe, it's healthful, it's a cultured product, which is not the same as fermented, and we stay away from fermented products. They irritate the digestive system and are not healthful for the body. That would include things that are processed in vinegar, like pickles and anything that's pickled. And so sauerkraut is not pickled, it's cultured. And it's a great way to preserve sauerkraut and enjoy it through the winter months. We are very thankful that God gave us a vegetable like cabbage and potatoes that store very well in root cellars if you get your conditions right, as far as moisture levels and temperature levels. Things that we can eat all winter long that are healthful, that we can grow in abundance. They're such a blessing, and we're very thankful, and we just happy to show you this simple method and hope you experiment with it and enjoy the healthful probiotics, the good bacteria that are formed in the sauerkraut that are very good for your digestive system. And just thank you for watching, and we'd love to hear your experiences if you have something you'd like to share.